So if we wanted to do something good for Mexico and good for foreign policy, legalizing drugs is probably the best single thing that we can do. And Obama is a minor step in that direction, and we ought to keep up our efforts in that direction, because of the long run, I think we're likely to prevail. Obama wants to get us out of Iraq sooner than the Bush people would have. And from my own point of view, that's exactly the right thing. There's no question that Saddam Hussein was a terrible person, but there are all sorts of terrible people in the world. And I think the result of going into Iraq is to make Iran more powerful. And Iran is the one country in the Middle East. The Pakistanis got the bomb, but they're the one country in the Middle East that's going to have the bomb probably in the next 5 years. And they like to shoot it off at Israel. And the Israelis are likely to shoot off theirs at Iran. And so the result of going into Iraq has made Iran, because they belong to the same sect of Islam as the majority of the Iraqis do, the Shiite Muslims, have made them more powerful, and also have made them more anti-US by going into Iraq and shooting up their co-religionists. So that I think the net result, not everybody here may agree with me completely on this, but I think the net result of going into Iraq has been very bad for not having a nuclear war and not having more power to probably the leading crazies in the Middle East, which is the present government of Iran. And so he sent a telegram to the people of Iran, or to the prime minister, which sort of got brushed off, but if there's a hope to negotiate them out of the bomb, he's a little bit better hope than the Bush people were. On Afghanistan, I don't know what the right thing to do in Afghanistan is. That was the base for the attack on 9/11. Obviously, I think we had a right to go back and attack the base and destroy that. But trying to build a new democratic government in Afghanistan, I think it's almost an impossible situation. And sooner or later, I think we just have to declare a victory and go. And he's going to send more troops in there that may create an opening where we can get out more gracefully, but I really don't quite see the end game there. He sent Hillary Clinton to, or Hillary went by herself, because I think Hillary is self-directed and not directed by anyone else, to Mexico, and in effect said to Mexico, we know you've got a lot of problems, and we know that really the base of your problem is drug sales in the United States, and we're going to do something about that. Well, they've been doing something about drug sales in the United States forever. I was living in New York when Nelson Rockefeller was governor of New York in like 59 or 60, and they passed a law that required a mandatory life sentence for those who sold narcotics to children. Well, there are lots of people selling narcotics to children in New York, 40 years after that law went through, and so harsher laws are not going to reduce drug use in the United States. My son is a deputy sheriff in Compton, and anytime he wanted to get a good record and make 5 arrests, he could go down any street in Compton and pick up 5 people. His view, he ought to be doing more serious work than that. But the drug laws, one, fill up the jails, because lots of people do arrest drug people, and drug people involved in crime, and they should be violent crime, they should be arrested. And then the police resources that are used for drug suppression could be used for suppressing armed robbery, rape, and arson, and pedophilia, and any number of other terrible crimes we could mention. And so that legalizing drugs has a great effect within the United States, and with respect to Mexico, it has an even greater effect. So when Hillary talks about suppressing drugs in the United States, they don't even talk about what I think is possibly an effective tack. I may come out for some kind of government program here. I better watch my step here in this room. But you could tell the Hispanic population in the United States that taking hard drugs is killing thousands of people in Mexico and destroying the country. And that would stop some people from doing it, right? And you could, there's all this thing about marijuana and reefer madness and all these kind of ads from the 30s, but hard drugs have lots of hard effects. And some people can handle hard drugs and lots of people cannot handle hard drugs. And so if you're going to have any kind of a government program, it seems to me an advertising program pointing out that lots of people can't handle it, there's lots of exterior bad effects, and you shouldn't do it. And that might have some immediate effect. I probably shouldn't even mention that thought in this room, but if Hillary was serious, there are no limits on what Hillary will do. So if Hillary wanted to do something within the context of what she thinks is the right thing to do, that's one step that she could do, which might reduce drug use in the United States by 10 to 15%, particularly hard drugs, and it would be a good thing. So there are steps that she could take within the United States, in addition to moving toward ultimate drug legalization. On gay marriage, why the Obama people are going to be less hostile than the Republicans are, so that's something that's going to come in the future. And Obama may be a little bit of a plus on that score. So on some civil rights issue, Obama's going to be a plus. And so we should badmouth him on the civil liberties issues. We should shoot him down on the economic issues, I think. And so that's my view on what we should have for a program. And I think we ought to stick hard with our civil liberties program so that we're not just an economic party, we're a civil liberties party. And I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there anything that you can suggest for us on the local California level as opposed to the federal level? Is there any inroad that we can make, progress on here in this very difficult state of California?
Okay.
Such as, for example, maybe encouraging them when they decide to release prisoners because they don't have enough money to keep them in jail, release the drug offenders rather than the people that are murdering and raping and that kind of stuff.
Actually, they generally reduce the minor offenders so that people who are selling 6 ounces of marijuana on the streets of Compton are the ones who are very likely to go.
Okay.
One thing is it's easier to frame a national program because people understand national issues better than they understand state issues. Despite the best efforts of people here to educate us on state issues, people are generally more knowledgeable on national issues. So that with our limited powers of outreach, to have a 5-point national economic program and then put it in all our newsletters, have it as posters at our dinner clubs. My sore throat is getting me. Have little cards that everybody could carry. So they say, what's your program? And here it is, says Libertarian Party, here's our address, here's our phone number, and here's our 5-point program on the other side. And so, people in the party, there may be 500 people to do it, they might pass out 10 or 20 apiece, and those kind of things circulate a little bit. So that's, we can't do everything. We shouldn't think that there's any silver bullet, because we've been looking for the silver bullet that's going to kill the government, big evil government, for 30 years, and we haven't found it because it's not there. It's just step by step and do what you can do and make a little impression and try to move things in the right way. That's what's possible for us. So that's something we could do.